Hello, I'm Sarah, and today I'd like to talk about education. So, cult education, one of my favorite little snarky comments I get if I'm ever in an online debate on social media or such, is when people tell me that I'm uneducated. It's funny because it's true. Now, I did go to regular school for my cosmetology license, and I am actually for real licensed in cosmetology. However, my education in the cult is a very different story. Um, I'm going to give more of an overview. Maybe in future videos, I'll go a little more in depth about what sort of things we were taught. But just to try to keep the story short, which I'm not the best at, um, we learned things very differently. Everything was through the slanted perspective of the founder. So a lot of things that other people may have learned in history as being a bad thing that happened, we celebrated or rejoiced it. Our education for history was completely based around the Bible, and we did have a current events subject. So we were homeschooled within our communes, which does not mean that our parents were our only teachers. Mom did teach some of the classes I was in. So did my dad. My dad does artwork, and so he taught some basic art classes, but most of the time he was more busy actually doing art than teaching art. Um, my mom would do like home ec class because she was a very good cook. She knew how to crochet and sew and knit and bead and do all the crafty stuff, so she was really good with that, and she would teach classes on that. But there was lots of other adults that we referred to as aunties and uncles that would teach various classes. We didn't really have a structure that was like grade levels, really. It was just, if you've learned this, you've learned this. Oftentimes when we moved to a new commune, the kids your age were learning something you already learned in a previous commune, and you just had to sit through that class and retake it. We had this class that we called 6,000 Years of World History because we did not learn evolution. Um, Evolution was mocked and ridiculed, and yeah, we were taught creationism. And I took that course 3 times in a row. And it's not a short course. Covering 6,000 years is a lot of history to cover. And yeah, so the education wasn't streamlined. It wasn't, yeah, it was a jumbled mess, basically. Some teachers were definitely better than others. Anyways, when I was about 12, I was in another new commune, and they were learning a lot of things I had already learned. And we also had a couple uh, locals that taught, Brazilian locals that were teaching things like English, which was not a great idea since, I spoke better English than the Brazilians. And he would always look up every word that he didn't know, and it would take so long, and I just wanted us to get through this content that it was I believe that was my third time going through the same stuff, and I was so over it. And so, he'd be like, havoc, let's look this word up and then we'll all learn the word. And I'm like, can I just tell you what it means and save us some time so we can keep learning? But no, looking it up was going to help us all learn, even if we already knew it. My favorite was when he the word chows. He's like, it created chows. He's like, I don't know this word. Let's look it up. And I'm like, it would help if you knew the correct pronunciation, which is chaos, not chows. Anyways, my smart mouth got me in trouble a lot because I was correcting teachers, and eventually me uh, got me into punishment with silence restriction, which I think I should do a whole video on. It's when you're not allowed to speak and you wear a sign around your neck. announcing to everyone that you can't speak. And I was put on silence restriction for 8 days. The only reason, if you break your silence restriction, you get put on for a lot longer. I know people who were on for a very, very long time, weeks, months, even well over a year. And for someone who likes to talk a lot, 8 days was a really long time. Lucky for me, I got laryngitis and couldn't speak above a very soft whisper. Yeah, the silence restriction wasn't just not being able to talk. Lucky me, they were out of duct tape, so I didn't have to have the duct tape around my mouth for very long because they ran out. I figured it was good practice if I ever got held hostage and had duct tape over my mouth. I learned how to slowly lick it off and remove it from my mouth, hands free. So I got that covered. That was a learning experience. But back to education. I eventually was pulled from the class because I was just constantly correcting people. And they decided I was full of myself, and that, yeah, so that's why I was put on silence restriction. At that time, we were considered a media home. In media homes, we had some better privileges because we were a commune that would allow local authorities to come and tour our facilities, see how intelligent our children were. Several of the young people were taken to go through a series of tests to see how smart we were. And I was always really disappointed that I wasn't selected, especially because I was the only one that had been pulled from class for knowing more than the teachers. Um, Not to discount the intelligence of the other kids, they were just better at keeping it to themselves. But there were younger kids that did struggle with education and learning disabilities, and were not things that were recognized. So there were some kids that were behind, but plenty of other intelligent people who knew how to keep their mouths shut and not correct teachers when they were wrong. But yeah, I wasn't selected to be one of the people tested. I'm fairly certain it's because of just how much I do talk and speak out that I think they were concerned, because the authorities didn't just want to test our intelligence and if we were actually having an education. They wanted to make sure that we were okay, that there wasn't anything wrong happening in the home. And if you ask me a straightforward question, I give a straightforward answer. I might tell most of the truth and omit some things, but I don't just lie. I have a really hard time with lying. And yeah, I think that's a reason why I was not selected. That's about the only reason, I think, because otherwise I would have been the perfect bragging, like, look at this one. I've just always had a really easy time learning things, and I catch on really quick. So at 12, I was assigned a classroom that I took care of, and it wasn't my first time working. I'd been working since I was about 7 with fundraising and such, and class was a very small portion of our day because we did fundraise for the home regularly. We did chores throughout the day. Um, Education was just a little snippet of our day. So, anyways, I would help tutor the kids that were my age or within my age group, but I wasn't allowed to continue any education. My mom was a little sneaky and a little naughty herself, and she would sneak me history books. There was a book called America the Beautiful that had amazing pictures of the US, and I was quite intrigued by it. And yeah, she'd sneak me history, geography, all sorts of books, and rebellious me continued studying on my own. A couple years later, I was relocated to a teen home after my mom was ill, and but hadn't quite left the cult just yet. And um, I, you okay, Miss Lady? You okay? I got you. Um, and we had a teacher there that taught some math. Now, we only learned very basic math. We learned some geometry. We were not allowed to learn algebra, as algebra was considered imperfect math because you didn't have all the numbers. And but we did learn a little bit of algebra at that time, and I was really excited to learn. I had some class at that time for about 2 months, and that was it. So I don't really consider myself to have been back in class because it was very minimal and very limited. Our main focus at that time was raising funds. And so, how you doing, Miss Lady? Anyways, so later on when I was 16, shortly before my 17th birthday is when my mom passed. And I was in the States staying with my grandma for a minute. I had come up here end of July, and that's when my mom passed. And then, what's up, only? And my grandma enrolled me in high school, and it was a little odd. They did not know where to place me. I had no record of ever being educated. Telling them you were educated in a commune in Brazil doesn't really count for much. Baby girl, what's up? Sorry, my dog is looking at me like she needs something. We just came inside. You just had water. I thought you were taking a nap. What's up, baby girl? Come here. What's up? You're so good girl. Where's your toy? You want your toy? There you go. So, all right, I think that's what, yep, she needed her toy. All right, so anyways, they had trouble placing me. They placed me as a sophomore because they didn't really know what to do with me. And I believe now that I understand the school system a little better, I probably, based on when my birthday is, I should have been placed as a junior, not a sophomore. Because while I was 16, I turned 17 shortly thereafter, so I feel like that's correct. But I don't know. I was a sophomore. And I started school in September, and I left at winter break. So that's the extent of normal, real school that I've ever attended, aside from cosmetology school. And I was honestly really excited to actually go to school where my whole day was about studying, not chores, not fundraising, studying, and I was allowed to study. That was really exciting for me. It was very overwhelming though. We would watch, if you've never seen it, it's a wonderful movie, I believe from the 80s with Morgan Freeman and other actors, but Morgan Freeman is the one that stands out. It's called Lean on Me, and it's about inner city school. I think I forget what city, Chicago, New York. I don't know. It's in a rough part of town. It's been a really long time since I've watched it, but we used to watch it sometimes every single week. And there was gang violence, guns, knives, 14-year-old pregnancies, just a lot of rough things going on and very bad test scores and children that weren't learning. And he turns the school around and gets people motivated to learn and improve their lives. It's a really, really good movie. I don't care how old it is. It's a good movie. However, the way we would watch it, we were given the impression that that is how all schools were. They were all riddled with drugs, gangs, violence, and unsafe environments. And yeah, we yeah, it was a very kind of intimidating thing. And then when I was in the States for the bit of time I was, Saved by the Bell was really popular on TV. So those were kind of my two perspectives of high school. And I remember after being in high school for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, a month, something like that, my AP brought me in to talk to me to see how I was getting along, how are things going, and I told her about these two being my only understanding of public schools. And Saved by the Bell, I don't know how they have all the time to get into all the shenanigans and how all these teachers give them hall passes constantly. Between classes, I had to just about speed walk from one end of the building to the next to get to my next class, make a quick detour to my locker. I don't like bumping into people. It makes me uncomfortable. So I would zigzag through the crowds, not brushing up against anyone. Yeah, I don't like rubbing up against strangers. It makes me very uncomfortable. And I Friends used to tell me when I'd be going through class from class to class, they would not want to interact with me because I would have a rather scary look on my face, and I was just very determined. And when you grow up in places like Rio, you learn how you look people in the eyes, you make eye contact, and you let them know I see you, and I it makes it less likely for you to be victimized when you're in dangerous areas. And that's something that I learned growing up overseas. So I apparently I enacted that in high school, and friends of mine were intimidated to approach me during when I was going from point A to point B. I was just like, I don't have time to talk. I'm going to be late. I need to go. And so, yeah. But yeah, Saved by the Bell, they're just always up to all these shenanigans. So much time is spent outside of the classroom in empty halls and nothing ever happens. And I'm like, that's not how things really go. Quick little interruption. She keeps dropping her toy and she's still grumbling at me. She literally needs nothing. Only settle down. Come here. I might have to pause and figure out what she needs. Baby girl, you're okay. You want to come up? Come here. Come here. Oh my goodness, don't fall. Hi. Hi, honey. How are you? You're such a big girl. Did you need some pets? Is that what you needed? Okay, I got you. I got you. Quick puppy intermission here. Take a look at this big, beautiful girl. Yes, hi. You so pretty. You just need some pets. Yes, hi, honey. Hi. You're such a good girl. No teeth. Thank you. No teeth. Hi. Hi. She's so good. Can Mama finish her story now? Yes? Can I finish my story and then we play some more? Yeah? Okay. Okay. Yes. Mwah. Good girl. Okay. Hopefully she will settle down for a little bit. I don't have much more to talk, okay? Can you just wait? Thank you. Can you wait? Okay. Oh, anyways, where was I? Sorry for the puppy distraction. I'm not sorry. She's a good distraction all the time. Yes, big babies. Wonderful big babies. Um, so anyways, yeah. Saved by the Bell is ridiculous. Not real story, but fun. And then my other viewpoint of school is this, gang and violence and all this. And there were groups of kids that would hang out. There was areas where different groups of kids, and we had police dogs come through sniffing for drugs, and so there was some shenanigans going on, but overall I never felt unsafe. I never felt accosted. I don't know, I felt fine. It wasn't some big scary thing. We were told if you're smart and everyone will hate you, no one will want to be around you. And honestly, the kids that needed help with their homework or their studying, they would borrow my notes, and they knew they could come check with me because I had the notes and I could help them study. So I didn't experience animosity or people making fun of me because I learned very quickly. I did have teachers try to put me into first year college classes, but I already knew I was an oddball and I didn't want to be, the sophomore doing first year college and just be that weird. I kind of just wanted to do my best to fit in as well as I could, which wasn't very well, but at least a little bit. Yeah, so I had went to high school for that hot minute, and then um, I went back to Brazil after I after winter break because I did not feel very close or attached to my family here. And after losing my mom, I just wanted to be around what I was familiar with. And so I went back to Brazil. When I left again at 18, I moved back to the neighborhood near the high school I'd gone to, which also happens to be, side note, the same high school my parents were high school sweethearts at and both graduated from. And at 18, I couldn't enroll in high school, but I could, there, I guess, is some loopholes because I had already been enrolled that they were willing to find a way to let me restart high school and do my senior year and graduate. But at the time, my son was a newborn and I needed to work full time. I even sporadically had two jobs. And I knew if I was also doing high school, there was just kids grow up so fast. In their first couple years, they grow up just extraordinarily fast. And I didn't want to miss any more of his infancy than I already knew I would with working. And so I opted instead to get my GED. And I went in and I took the pre-test. They have you take a test to see what you know, what you don't know, what you need work on, and so forth. And then after I took the pre-test, they contacted me and told me I could set up my actual test. And I did, and I passed all the subjects and got my GED in the mail. They misspelled my first name. They spelled my last name correctly, but my first name, Sarah, they spelled Arach. I'm like, at least they got the H right. But yeah, people misspell my last name all the time. It's 10 letters. It's just a really crazy last name, but they got that part right, but Sarah, they got wrong. That was funny. Yeah, but that I got my GED. So yes, I do consider myself to be somewhat intelligent. I'm not an idiot, but I'm also definitely not educated. But it has made me more interested in learning and expanding my knowledge on all sorts of things. The upside, too, is there's a lot of our mainstream education here in the United States, at least, that is very whitewashed or has been, they always say it's the victors that write the history books. And so there's a lot of things that we slant in certain ways, and there's things that we learn that aren't really relevant to everyday life. And, you learn it and then you never use it and you lose it. So, in that aspect, because I didn't have years and years of all that education, I'm constantly learning new things and seeking out more knowledge. And so I can look to all sorts of sources. I always like to cross check my sources. I try to never just get a one sided, biased source for anything. I like to source things through multiple perspectives because the truth always seems to lie somewhere in the middle. And yeah, that's my education story in as close to a nutshell as I can, with minor interruptions from the puppies, and they are now mostly settled. Mostly settled. Big girl, little girl, just chilling now. Yeah. So with that, I will say ciao until next time. Thanks for watching. Yes, only.